Hey guys, Pat here, and I have a real treat for you. Today we're going to work on this Tweed Champ. This is a early 1960 5F1 Champ, and what's special about it is it's all original. As a tech, I love working on original amps like this. It's like opening some weird time capsule. Let's do a visual inspection before we do anything. So first off, I see a 2-prong cable, original Astron death cap, that's gonna go. These electrolytics are gonna go, not only because of their age, but look, they're oozing out some gunk right there. So let's change those. We have the original Astron coupling caps. I see a vintage GE rectifier, looks like a vintage power tube, and then a new replaced preamp tube, and I see what appears to be the original speaker. Okay, so it's not every day I have two Tweed Champs in. These are the same amp, the same circuit, 1 year apart. This I have not serviced yet. It has been recapped and serviced somewhere else. We're going to be looking at that in a couple of days. But let's do a quick A-B comparison. We both have the original speakers. We both have vintage RCA tubes, and so let's see how they sound. So this is the one we're working on, and that's all original. Volume drop there. Okay, let's get some work done. I think we're gonna take off the back panel. And I think I do want to de-chassis it because I want to make sure that the transformers are secure. It'll be a little easier to work with too. Look at this little thing, it's so cool. Here, let me show you the transformer codes real quick. So 606 means Schumacher. Schumacher made this transformer. The 9 is the year, so it's a 59. It's not a 69, it's a 59. And 49 is the week. So on the 49th week, Schumacher made this in 1959. Geez, my dad was like 4 weeks old when they made this thing. Okay, so look at the speaker. This is also made in the 49th week of 1959. And the speaker code is 465, so this was made by Oxford. And you gotta love Department of Buildings and Safety, Los Angeles approved. Okay, let's take a look at the schematic. Yeah, look, cannoli cookie. Looking at this Champ schematic, this is a great opportunity for a little education because it is just so simple, elegantly beautiful if you ask me. So let's take a look. Here is our AC input. That is our fuse, our off switch. That is our death cap, which we're going to remove. This is our power transformer, rectifier tube, and here is our B+ voltage. So output transformer, that is the first node, and then over here to our screen of our 6v6 beam power tube, and then this is the supply for the driver and the grid for the first gain stage. So let's do our signal flow. If we plugged into jack 1, our guitar signal comes in here, out the plate, through this cap, into our volume pot. Interesting to note that our Champ we're working on has a bypass cap. In fact, every 5F1 I've seen has a bypass cap, but I don't see one on the schematic, but they did include the dots. So if anyone has seen one with the bypass cap not installed, I'd be curious, leave a comment. Anyway, back to our signal flow. That is our output, and this is our drive tube through this coupling cap into our power tube, output transformer, speaker, and this also has feedback. This is a 22K feedback resistor into the cathode of the driver tube. I have a saying that caps are a conversation. We certainly have to take out these electrolytic caps. But what about these two yellow Astrons, these .02s? Well, when I came in this morning, they weren't leaking. But often with Astrons of this period, if you leave them on for a little bit, they start to leak, sadly. And in this case, as you can see, this first cap here is leaking over a volt of DC. And as this is on, this is going to climb. This one, not so much. It's about a half a volt, but we're going to want to change both of these out. Okay, first things first, depth cap goes. First, I don't like this screw sticking up. Tighten that down. There we go. So I'm taking out the cathode bypass cap and the cathode resistor, and we're going to talk about that later. I've already tested this and it's drifted up, and now I can actually see it. It's got a little bit of a discoloration, so we are going to change that and properly bias the amp. The original filter capacitors, 16, 8, and 8, and we're going to replace these with 22, 10, and 10. All right, who likes controversy? Not me, but for some reason this is a hot topic. Some techs don't like this, some do. It's a little silly to get all amped up about it, but excuse me, I have a cold. Doing what's called restuffing the capacitors, taking the old cardboard of the old Astrons and putting in new electrolytics. I don't normally do it, and like I said, I don't have strong opinions about it. You know, when it's in the doghouse and you're never going to see it, maybe it's a little silly. But I think in this champ, being that it's all original, it's kind of a nice touch. I'm a car guy, and way back when I had a vintage 68 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, and I liked it stock. It came to me stock. Literally never had a tune-up. Original belts and hoses. And man, I like looking at that engine and looking at the originality. I mean, they make distributors that look old. They make brakes, new disc brakes that actually look like old drum brakes. There's something nice and some kind of charm in having it look original. So in this amp, we are going to restuff it. It's funny, carbon comp resistors are known to drift, and they certainly do, and they certainly get noisy. But man, I tell you, just about every single one I checked is dead on. 99K, 100K. It's good to see. There's a lot of snake oil sold on Cap Mountain. But I will tell you, when I'm changing Astrons, I really do like using these Jupiter Vintage Tone capacitors. They really do have a similar sound. I really do enjoy them. They are quite creamy and musical. This is a blue molded cap. You're going to see these in all your black panel Fenders. This is a fantastic cap. These will last. But as we've already discovered, yellow Astrons, not so much. So let's put in our Jupiter caps here. I'm guessing the fine people at Astron couldn't have imagined that 65 years later, people are debating their capacitors and leaving mean comments on YouTube. Change them all. Never change. Change them all. You're a crook. It's a little silly, people. Here's the Astron factory, the old building, 255 Grant Ave, Newark, New Jersey.
My mom's family is actually from Newark. These are my grandparents in 1958. That's my grandfather in front of his parents' shop, DeLuca's Sausage and Italian Ice. Newark was once a thriving city with lots of component manufacturers, equipment manufacturers, and even tube factories.
Tubes today are not as robust as they once were. Well-engineered gear back in the day, even military gear, they did have a tendency to bias tubes hotter, past plate dissipation recommended by the manufacturers. That was okay then, everything held up. But today, not so much. So even in something like this, a cathode biased amp, when we service it, we have to check the bias. Certainly when we change tubes, we have to check the bias. I'm not comfortable putting this discolored resistor back in, even though it's the correct value. 580 is what the amp wants to see, even though it was 470. So we're going to make these two resistors in parallel, the 1.5 and the 1, and it gets us to about 600. So that's going to be the number to get the bias safe for this champ. All right, it's getting kind of late. I want to get home, have an awesome dinner with my awesome family. So, the customer wants to get this tomorrow. We will shoot some more video tomorrow, but real quick, I mounted the AC cable, mounted the chassis. I just played through it, checked it. Everything looks good, but I do want to check the wattage. So, 1K sine wave into our input jack. 4 ohm load, not 8. Always have a 4 ohm speaker in a champ. We're measuring AC volts across the dummy load, so across the speaker jack. Bringing it up, we're getting, let's say 5.11. 5.11 times 5.11 divided by 4, 6.528 watts. Pretty good. All right, thanks for watching. Let's see how this sounds.
And whatever happened to my mint cutlass? Well, let's just say a speeding cop car, a building, and yeah.